It's that time of year again, everyone. September has been and gone. Everyone is making the jokes on social media about waking up Green Day, but that also means that EGX has been and gone, and that means that we attended EGX. As we start to get into the end of the year with all the big AAA games vying for your Christmas sales, sometimes we forget about the smaller games, the indie games that have some of the most interesting and unique ideas behind them, and that means it's time for our EGX Indie Extravaganza. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this 2018's Games Up EGX Indie Extravaganza, and we start off with one of our favourite indie developers and one of our favourite indie series. They've been loyal to us and we've been loyal to them since they showed off their very first game for the very first time years and years ago. I will leave you in the capable hands of me in the past and Mila from Muga Games as we talk, of course, about Thea the Shattering. If you've been listening for any amount of time, you will know that it's a small tradition that we hit the show floor of EGX and immediately look for Mila of Muga Games to see what shape Thea is in this year, and I have found it once again. Hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm really good, thank you.
Excellent. So we are here on the show floor, as per usual, with Thea 2, The Shattering, and it's been a year since we talked to you last. How has your year been?
It's been very busy, so we've been working hard to get the game to a playable state. Yeah, it's going really well, but it was very, very busy, and it's only getting busier as we prepare for early access release.
So the last time we saw you guys, you were in a very early development state. I think it was the first time you'd actually shown Thea off, which was cool. The jump you've made now is huge. What kind of things have changed in that year for Thea 2?
Yeah, so a year ago we only had card battle mechanics, that's all we had. So now we have full map exploration, so you can gather resources, you can craft equipment, you can cook, you can level up your characters, which is a huge change from Thea 1, so you actually have control over how you level up your characters. We have children that have their own mechanic, and they can now grow up, so we've got a growing up event going on. We've got challenges with concepts working now, so you won't fight only against actual physical enemies, you can also fight against concepts. Yes, off the top of my head, that's the major changes. I'm sure there's more, but...
So for those of you who don't know, Thea, the kind of gist of it is, I'm right in thinking, it's kind of an RPG, kind of a civilization game, but all the attacking challenges. Yeah. There's a word for it where you attack people or whatever. All of that is done through a card game, much like you would consider the Hearthstone or something along that line, but with kind of a more of an RPG jaunt.
Yes. Well, the big difference with our card game is that the characters that you have in your RPG or Civ element actually become your cards. So if you have 3 people, those 3 people are your 3 cards, and if they get wounded in the card game, they are your characters that get wounded, and they can potentially die. So it's a bit more immersive than a mini card game would be. Yeah,
it's a lot more in depth, which leads to my first question. How difficult is it to show something like this on the show floor?
It's really, really difficult because people tend to go for casual games at game expos, whereas with Thea, ideally you need a good hour to sit down and really get to grips with the mechanics. So we end up quite often standing behind someone and just kind of pointing to everything, which can be a problem. But on the other hand, it's a good way to test our tutorials and tooltips and stuff, just to see how people are reacting to them and how much help they are. So it's a mixed bag, but this year actually we've been quite surprised with how busy our booth is, so that's great.
Do you find that people come away with like a good understanding of what the game is and what they'll be playing?
I think so. We've been trying to get feedback and talking to people after they've finished, and they seem to... I think the cards battle mechanic is the hardest to get into. So that's the one that's going to be a challenge for us to do a proper tutorial and just lower the entry level, which we would like to do. It is going to be a complex game. It isn't going to be for casual gamers, but we do hope to lower the entry level a bit.
Okay. So something that's striking immediately is how much further Thea 2 has come in terms of production quality. It looks really, really beautiful, especially for a game in the res section. There's a huge wealth of the quality of games here, and Thea 2 definitely stands out as one of the more full ones that you'd find here. What kind of things do you see happening to Thea before it comes out, whenever that release is?
In terms of what you just said, well, I think I don't want to say we've done a lot of it already, but yeah, it's just boosting what we already have. So we're we keep adding additional artwork and 3D models, and our UI keeps getting reworked. But as you said, I think we are very pleased with how it is looking already, and the trick now is to add the features that are missing, so like co-op and building the village, and make sure that we can stick with those production values and balance them really well. So balancing is going to be our biggest challenge.
The other thing that's really striking about Thea when you walk past the booth is the booth. It's really, really impressive. And you guys are in full costume, I'm assuming inspired by the Nordic lore behind the game.
Yes.
Are you not boiling hot on a show floor in quite a lot of layers of costume?
We are, but we persevere. No, it's a lot of fun. I love dressing up, so for me it's a lot of fun.
And if anyone gets the wrong idea or makes a bad joke, your colleague has a gigantic axe.
I know, exactly.
So that helps.
Yes,
awesome.
Absolutely.
So when should we expect to see Thea, if we can expect to see it yet?
Well, we want to release it into Steam Early Access at the end of November. So if nothing goes horribly wrong, then end of November. But you know how it is with game dev, but that's what we're aiming for.
So fairly soonish then?
Yes.
Awesome. And anything else we should know about the game?
No, it's just awesome. So, you know, if you're here, come and play.
She may be a little biased, but it is pretty awesome. Where can people find you? Where can people find Muga? Where can people find Thea?
Well, check us out on mugagames.com. We also have a Facebook account and a Twitter account. And if you go on mugagames.com, you can sign up for a newsletter. And I do monthly updates where we keep you up to date on how the dev is going, and do little stories on how we argue with each other and that sort of thing. So if you're interested in how our development is going, I recommend that.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that was our yearly catch-up with Muga Games and Thea. I hope we see you next year, although the game will be out by that point, so who knows?
Well, surely we'll have, like, expansions and DLCs,
sure.
Which are free, of course.
Maybe you'll just get a year of peace from us. That would be lovely. Yeah. Thanks very much, and we'll see you whenever we see you.
Great. Thank
Cheers.
You very much.
Bye. And that was Thea. And it seems like it's coming out very, very soon. I cannot praise Thea enough. The first time I saw Thea 1, I thought it was a really cool concept and showed a lot of promise. Thea 2 is what that promise was. It's so incredibly polished, it's so much more accessible than it used to be, but it will seriously sink your time and your teeth into it. It is worth your time to look at, it's worth your interest, it's such a cool little idea for a video game, and you should find a way to play it. That was Thea. That was week 1 of the EGX Indie Extravaganza, and we will see you at the same time, same place next week, Wednesday at 6:30 for the next week and the next indie game. Thanks, and the game's up.